Welcome everyone to our 16th virtual panel of PAVE Europe. My name is Guido Di Pasquale. I'm Managing Director of PAVE Europe, Partners for Automated Vehicle Education in Europe. And today we are talking about a complex topic, which is artificial intelligence and its relation with autonomous vehicles. Because AVs are increasingly rely on artificial intelligence for several aspects like perception, situational awareness, and decision-making, and the need for transparent and reliable AI has never been more pressing. We will explore the intersection between AI and autonomous vehicles, and also the importance of building trust. That is something that at PAVE Europe we take care a lot. And we have two exceptional AV and AI experts with us today. I'm very, very happy to have Margriet Schijndel de Nooij, who is Program Manager responsible mobility at the Eindhoven University of Technology. Welcome, Margriet.
Thank you very much, Guido.
And we have with us Bernard Lambert, Manager at PwC. Welcome, Bernard.
Thanks, Guido.
So let's start our conversation today, and I would like to ask you to introduce yourself, what you do, and what's your relation with the AV space and also AI space in your daily job. Margriet, would you like to start?
Thank you, Guido, and of course, thank you for having me here. Within Eindhoven University, I'm leading our research program, Responsible Mobility, which does include automated vehicles, but also a lot of other things, which I come back to later on. In my daily work, I'm based at EASY, which is the Eindhoven AI Systems Institute, which is a cross-cutting institute in our university. So that means that I'm working with researchers from all our departments, but also with partners from government and from industry to come to innovations that can have an impact for society and impact also for users. That includes all the things you can imagine on mobility, even on engine technology, but also on automated driving, on the chassis development, but also on systems optimization, linking mobility to the energy system, to the energy grid, the just transition, user acceptance. And beyond that, I also spend part of my time in the Horizon Europe CCAM partnership. CCAM is Connected Cooperative Automated Mobility. And there I'm cluster leader for cluster 5, which is on key enabling technologies, which includes AI. Yes.
Of course. Thank you, Margriet. And Bernard, what about you?
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Bernard Lambert. I'm currently a manager at PricewaterhouseCoopers. And sure, PricewaterhouseCoopers is a leading audit and consulting firm, mainly known for financial audits. In my daily role, I basically focus on AI strategies. So we help companies to identify how can they use their data, what value do their data possess. And I do also have a background in automotive testing. So from my prior employer, I focus a lot on the topics of autonomous vehicles. How do you test these vehicles and how do you ensure that as soon as they get deployed on public roads, they are safe and reliable. So I'm glad to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Bernard. I would like to start with you, Margriet, also to set the scene a bit on AI in particular, and how would you define trustworthy AI, particularly in the context of autonomous mobility, and what are the key components that contribute to building trust in these systems? I know that you are also involved in projects like AI Tina that are working on this direction. So what's your view?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's good to do some setting of the scene, because for trustworthy AI, there are a lot of definitions, and some of them are very specific and in detail, and others are very fluffy. So I'll try to be somewhere in between so we can work with it. I think trustworthy AI ensures that users are able to confidently and fully reap the benefits of the CCAM technologies that they can trust, so that they feel confident that the AI-based system they use is competent and is acting with integrity and predictability. So then more specifically for CCAM, that would mean they feel safe in an automated vehicle supported by AI, and they feel confident that in safety critical or in all decisions that are made in a human-like manner. So they understand and feel confident that everything goes quite well, smooth. That's kind of a definition that we work with. Then you asked for also 3 key components, and I will mention 3 of them. The first one is trustworthy AI should be lawful. So it should be in compliance with all applicable laws and regulations. Secondly, it should be ethical, respecting ethical principles and values. And thirdly, it should be robust, both from technological and societal perspective. And it should be all 3 of them. It's not like I can just piggyback what I like. No, you need all 3 of them, and then you're good to go.
Thank you, Margriet. I think this set the scene. I don't know, Bernard, if you have anything to add on that. And my question to you is also, what is unique in AI for self-driving, and what is the right way to use AI in self-driving, in your opinion?
Yeah, sure. I mean, AI, of course, is a core concept for autonomous vehicles. If you imagine that autonomous car, it has a lot of sensors, the leader sensor, it has a lot of cameras included. Now the task is that these sensors basically detect the outside world, and the car basically needs to analyze all those data from the outside world and make the right driving decisions. Just a practical example, as soon as the car or the autonomous car is now approaching a traffic light, the car needs to understand or know, well, the traffic light now is red, I need to stop. And the whole procedure behind this driving maneuver is basically based on AI algorithms. So all driving decision taken by a car has been trained by training these cars. And now, of course, in real traffic situations, these systems need to work. So that is basically the crucial part when talking about AI and autonomous vehicles. Besides that, of course, you have many other algorithms within the car. Imagine the voice assistant. As soon as you talk to your car, give some commands to your car, that is also based on AI. And we are also partly talking about predictive maintenance and other related tasks, where basically based on the data, algorithms help you to detect when a certain spare part will break down. So from my perspective, AI is really a core element of the whole discussion about autonomous driving.
Yeah, and it's also my question for you is how the AI impact aspects like transparency in the AV systems, and what are the challenges that this pose for ensuring accountability, for example, or as Margriet mentioned, trustworthiness?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I guess a core part is what is well known in at least in Europe, the part of homologating a vehicle, right? That's also relevant for classical cars, but as soon as a kind of vehicle is allowed to be deployed on public roads, it needs to be tested. And as of today, and also according to the regulation, this type approval or homologation procedures basically are based on functional safety tests, but also, and that is really new, also on virtual simulations. So basically, and I think that is a really interesting technology, you use software that is simulating a lot of traffic scenarios. Yeah? Imagine a scenario in front of a school where kids are playing. Imagine a situation on the motorway. So you can simulate more than thousands of scenarios. And now you test the algorithms of this car with these scenarios and check, is the car behaving in the way it should be? Yeah? Is the driving decision of the car robust? And that is, I think, a really valid approach to ensure that the car is safe, that the algorithms are valid, and coming exactly to the topic of trustworthy AI. Of course, talking about the classical functional safety, there are a lot of standards currently developed by SAE and ODD. Basically, what you do here is you have test tracks, and there the functional safety of a vehicle is tested. If a passenger is crossing the street, does the car stop? And you have a lot of that, a lot of standards by SAE, for example. You need to ensure that the systems work under bad weather conditions, if it's snowing, if it's raining, if there's fog. So that is also a very, very relevant pillar. A little challenge, which is definitely very, very important, is the topic of cybersecurity, because it needs to ensure that hackers cannot manipulate the system. And I think what is also really interesting in the discussion is the so-called topic over-the-air update. So as soon as the car is on the road and deployed, the OEMs can basically update the software and add new driving features, which of course are then not homologated. So from a more technical part, as it is regulated right now in terms of homologation, that is definitely the right way to ensure that also the cars are trustworthy and safe when deployed on public roads.
Thank you, Bernard. You also touched a point that was raised by someone who made advanced questions regarding cybersecurity. So thanks for that. And Margriet, at PAVE Europe, we want to educate and communicate about the potential benefit of this technology. And of course, now we have artificial intelligence, which is not really easy to explain to the people. And so from your point of view and from your experience and project you are involved in, what could be the strategies to be implemented to enhance the communication and the explainability of AI-driven solutions like CCAM systems?
It's not an easy question. If it would have been, you would have cracked the puzzle yourself. So I'm quite sure about that. For me, I need to go back some steps. I think if you want to achieve what you were stating, I think we need to move back and say, if you are working on this, if you need to ensure to build and communicate on your AI using the fundamental principles of the ethics for trustworthy AI. That was one of the key requirements, the ethics, and there are several layers under it. There are 4 main fundamentals that you need to take into account in order for you to be able to communicate in a later stage. So the first one is respect for human autonomy. The second one, prevention of harm. The third one is fairness. And the fourth one is explicability. And in building the AI tools, then you also need to take into account some requirements such as human agency and oversight, technical robustness and safety, privacy and transparency. That needs to be back in your head. That needs to be where you start if you want to end up in what you're trying to do to make it, to communicate and work with it. Because if you don't follow these principles, people won't buy it. People won't accept what you say. They won't understand that it is human-like, that it is safe. But you're not there yet if you do so. I think this is a very essential starting point. But then there's a step that we are having to make now, is to follow a harmonized methodology for the development, training, and testing of AI-based CCAM solutions. Solutions like mentioned before, perception, situational awareness, decision-making, traffic management, routing. But such methodology isn't fully there yet. But EC-funded projects, like you mentioned, Athena, but also AI for CCAM, are working on it. And having and using such methodology shows coherence, alignment, and broad collaboration amongst European stakeholders, which I think absolutely supports user acceptance and eases communication to drivers, passengers, and users. But it also gives the developers on the other side clear guidance and a solid framework for new tools and updates of the software that they have, whether or not over-the-air updates. And it links then also to a third kind of party that you didn't mention yet, is regulatory bodies. Because if they see that everyone is using such harmonized methods, that can be instrumental for the steps that they have to make towards, for instance, type approval processes. But they need to be involved in the development and harmonization of such methodologies. For these regulatory bodies, it further can be helpful to have some dedicated training or professional education to enhance their understanding and their capability to keep on asking the right critical questions that they are doing now also for other technologies. So it's a whole picture that you need to work on before you can start communicating also to the end user.
Thank you, Margriet. You mentioned regulation. We will come back to that shortly. And also to introduce that a bit, I would like to ask to Bernard about the EU AI Act. So this that was published recently by the European Commission. So how does, if it does, the EU AI Act fit into the autonomous mobility? For example, with the promotion of responsible AI and sustainable integration into the markets. I know that you studied a bit and you are involved in this discussion with the AI Act. What's your view on that?
Yeah, it's a pretty good question, because the EU AI Act itself is more a general regulation. So it's not really industry specific, but it's regulating kind of the general way how to deal with AI. And now thinking about the applications within an autonomous vehicle, the systems we just discussed, for sure the driving systems, but also kind of like the voice assistant or top algorithms like predictive maintenance, they clearly fall under the high risk category. Yeah? And according to the AI Act, algorithms that are in the high risk category need to be tested and certified. And here you definitely apply the dimensions in the trustworthy AI framework to really validate or ensure that these algorithms are safe. I guess one drawback from the EU AI Act is that the type approval regulation is not part of the EU AI Act. It is separate and it's not touched by the EU AI Act. The only overlap here is that it could be that the kind of homologation or type approval regulation is somehow amended by the outcome out of the EU AI Act. So there are still two separate legal topics, but there are some interconnections which probably still needs to be discussed how it will work in the future.
Thank you, Bernard. And we will go back, as I said, to the regulation later. But now I would like to stay in the trust topic, Margriet. And how can we proactively build public trust and enthusiasm for autonomous vehicles? We hear from different parts of the world also some skepticism about autonomous vehicles, and also in Europe, especially the lack of real cases or real services that people can experience and can see. This doesn't help building trust with the people. So how would you see this, and how can we build this trust on AI and autonomous vehicles?
Well, I think for me, pilots and large-scale demonstrations can be instrumental here, but we need to be careful how to develop and how to implement these. And maybe we need to change some from how we have been doing it so far. So we need to be really sure that we show more than a technical gimmick, which I have to say it has been the case in some of the previous demonstrations. Look what we can do, but how is it a value for me? So we need to make sure that when we do a pilot or a large-scale demonstration, that we clearly show the broader societal benefits that are to be addressed with this solution that is being demonstrated, and also the larger scale demonstrations or benefits, like the increased safety, the reduced environmental impacts and inclusiveness, and that these benefits are not standalone, but that at the end of the day, they contribute to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I do realize that the benefits that I mentioned are still very generic. So when you do a demonstration, you have to be much more specific. What kind of safety, to what level, for whom? Make it more specific, and then you can get more buy-in. I think doing it like that also helps to communicate on specific local issues which should be solved with such a demonstration or implementations. And for that, cities do play a key role. And for an example, I see that when we are working together with, or working with, or see the trials at, for instance, the city of Helmond, where they really try to define a clear local issue that they would like to solve with a demonstration, and then try to make sure that the demonstration, once it's successful, stays there. So it's enrolled for longer term. I think if you do that and communicate about that in a clear way, then you get user and citizen buy-in for the new automated vehicles. Not only for the cities, but for us as actors in the field, I think it's important to show clear and coherent assessments of the long-term implications of the benefits, of the impacts of integrating CCAM solutions into the mobility system. And then showing with evidence, for instance, from pilots and demonstrations, that CCAM actually can deliver on the promises made on it beforehand. And then, of course, major step is to make sure, like I said before, that it's not a demonstration with an end term, but that runs on the longer term. So work on the longevity of those demonstrations.
Thank you very much, Margriet. And I think you addressed a very important topic. And yeah, it's, as you say, the CCAM has to demonstrate, as one of the participants highlighted, that it can materialize, and then that it can deliver on the promises made. Thanks. And remaining on the topic of trust, Bernard, this was also a question from that we received from the audience, and it's about how can we incentivize the industry to prioritize the creation of consumable knowledge that fosters understanding, thereby building trust in AI-driven technology. And additionally, how can we ensure that consumers can recognize when this level of understanding has been achieved? It's a tricky question, but I think it's quite important.
It definitely an important question. Like, from my perspective, the industry itself, they have a self-interest to foster trust into the new technology, because in the end, if a client is not trusting kind of the autonomous mobility because it's afraid that something will go wrong, they will probably not buy an autonomous vehicle or will not use an autonomous vehicle. And I think this is the biggest incentive for the industry themselves to really do their best to explain what is behind an autonomous vehicle. And probably the best way to achieve this trust is that people can experience autonomous mobility by simply taking an autonomous vehicle for a short distance or just getting used to this new technology. Because right now, of course, it seems to be quite far away, but as soon as it gets introduced on the roads, people can experience autonomous mobility. And probably over time, and this is probably the best selling argument, or the best argument for autonomous vehicle, people will realize that a human driver is probably not as good as an autonomous driver. It's much safer to use an autonomous vehicle than a human driver. At least that is the proposition of autonomous cars. And as soon as the industry can prove that this is really true, I'm sure that people and consumers are more willing to also use an autonomous car.
Yeah, thank you. And Margriet, you are involved in many collaborative projects where collaboration is key. So in what ways can this, especially interdisciplinary collaboration between technologists, ethicists, policymakers, and other types of stakeholders, of course, industry, can contribute to build this trust in AI-driven autonomous mobility systems?
I can be very short on that. I think it's absolutely essential. Without using all those disciplines, I think we end up just with a technical gimmick. And that's definitely not what we want. We need to be doing much more. We need to think more on what's the societal need, what do we need to solve, and how do people work with those solutions. And that's the only way, if you take all those disciplines together, that you come to solutions that users and society will embrace. And embracing a solution is different than, okay, I'll accept it. It's much more. It's creating also a pull from the market and from the audience. This is what we want. And therefore, you absolutely need people who speak different languages, get them together, Don't work in parallel, work together and really get there. And I think many of us know this because you have seen also a shift towards this. We're not there yet. I think we are still much too technology driven, but we are on the right way. We're getting there. And I think it's absolutely necessary to do that if you want to create user-centric solutions and delivering value to the end user and to society, and still have some European competitiveness in the industry as well. So I think it's essential.
That's right. Thank you, Margriet. Coming back to the regulatory aspects, Bernard, navigating these regulatory landscapes can be sometimes quite challenging for, especially in the emerging technologies like AI and AVs. So in your opinions and from your experience, what are the or some of the strategies for companies to navigate regulatory frameworks while ensuring also compliance and trustworthiness?
It's a very good question. It is definitely challenging because there are many regulations, many standards, and it's a quite complex topic. Regarding a strategy, I guess the good first step is to really understand, okay, what kind of AI algorithms are in my product, in my car, to really understand, okay, that are especially safety relevant algorithms. And then the next step, I think it's really, really recommendable for producers or OEMs to already in the development phase use trustworthy AI standards as soon as we have some, and tailor their development, or basically do some testing along the way they are developing their products or their industry or based on industry standards. So by doing this, I'm sure that it's much easier to comply with the industry relevant standards for the corresponding product. And of course, I mean, we at PwC are more than happy to help anyone who's interested in getting a deeper understanding what kind of standards are important for their project. Yeah? So more than happy to stay in contact.
Thank you, Bernard. I have a question from our participant. I don't know who wants to reply on this. It's about, well, creating performant AI requires massive amounts of data and a lots of data annotations. So who can have this data, considering also GDPR restrictions, and who will be able to make the annotations? Who wants to reply to this?
I can try. I'm not sure if I can fully answer it, but I can try, and perhaps Margriet can add something. But I guess when talking about automotive mobility and the testing part, there is a lot of testing going on the roads already, where the sensors are collecting a lot of data. And what I just mentioned, the simulation testing is also a way how data is generated that is then used to basically train these algorithms. I think that is one way. Regarding the question of data ownership, I guess it's regulated right now that the owner of a car also owns the data that the car is generating. And if now a third party wants to access those data, the owner of the car needs to approve that this data is shared with the third party that wants to access those data sets. So that's the question of data sovereignty, but also really, really interesting topic.
Thank you, Bernard. I don't know, Margriet, if you want to add anything on that. Otherwise, I would like to ask you your final remarks. We are about to end this virtual panel, and if you have any final remarks or anything that you would like to highlight that we didn't discuss, and also to launch maybe future discussions or future virtual panels?
Well, for me, an important conclusion is that, yes, I know that the European approach to CCAM with trustworthy AI as a cornerstone to address societal challenges and user needs, though it may be not as fast as other approaches in other regions of the world, but I think this approach is vital to ensure that CCAM can deliver on its promises and can be actually really embraced by end users across many European regions and cities. And I think it can help to overcome the fragmented optimization that we have in mobility these days. and help to contribute to have an inclusive mobility system. So I think it's a very promising technology, but we still have a couple of hurdles to tackle.
Yeah, thanks, Margriet. And Bernard, what are your final words?
Yeah, I can just add basically exactly. I would say something quite similar. I think it's a really, really exciting technology, and thinking kind of 10 or 20 years ahead, I'm really excited to see how it works and how it makes things better, how it improves basically transportation, also sustainability, and I think there's a lot of potential in this technology. The road to achieve this, basically this promising, is still quite rough, and there are many challenges or hurdles to be taken. And but I'm confident that we can achieve this and see autonomous vehicles one day on our roads in Europe.
Well, with these positive words, I would like to thank you both, Margriet and Bernard, for joining this very interesting conversation today. The video is recorded. We also have our PAVEcast podcast, so you can go back and listen to our conversation today. So thank you very much to everyone for joining us, and I'm looking forward to the next virtual panel. Thank you and bye.